On a lonely rock in the middle of the raging Atlantic, 3 men tended a lighthouse. One day, the light went dark, and when a ship finally reached the island to find out why, they discovered the lighthouse in perfect order. A meal interrupted, a chair knocked over, and not a single living soul anywhere on the island.
3 experienced keepers had simply vanished from a locked island, miles from anywhere, with no boat, no bodies, and no explanation.
This is the mystery of the Flannan Isles Lighthouse, a disappearance the sea has never given back. The Flannan Isles are a scatter of tiny, uninhabited rocks off the far northwest coast of Scotland, battered by some of the wildest seas in the world.
In 1900, a brand new lighthouse stood on the largest of them, warning ships away from the deadly rocks. It was kept by a rotating crew of 3 men at a time.
It was a hard, isolated posting. For weeks, the keepers had only each other, the endless sea, and the great lamp they kept burning every single night without fail.
That December, the 3 men on duty were experienced keepers who knew the island and its dangers well. This was routine work for them, lonely but routine.
Then, one night, a passing ship noticed something deeply wrong. The Flannan Isles light, which should have been sweeping across the sea, was dark.
For a lighthouse to go dark was almost unthinkable. The light was everything. Keeping it lit was the entire reason the men were there.
But the weather was too rough to investigate immediately, and it would be days before a relief ship could reach the remote island. When that ship finally arrived, the crew already sensed something was off. No keepers waved from the landing, no flag flew. The island was utterly silent. They sounded the ship's whistle and fired a flare. Nothing answered. So a man was rowed ashore to climb up to the lighthouse alone. He found the entrance gate and the door closed. Inside, the lighthouse was tidy and orderly. The beds were unmade, but nothing was obviously wrong. In the kitchen, he found the pieces of a scene frozen in time, and a chair, overturned, lying on the floor beside the table. The great lamp itself was in perfect condition, cleaned, refilled, ready to be lit. The keepers had done their duty right up until whatever happened, happened. But the men were gone, all 3. The keeper searched every room, called their names through the tower, climbed to the lamp room. The island was empty. There were a few strange clues. Of the 3 sets of oilskin coats and boots the keepers wore in bad weather, 2 were missing, but 1 full set remained. That meant 2 of the men had gone out into a storm properly dressed for it, but the 3rd appeared to have rushed out into that same weather without his coat at all. What could make a careful, experienced keeper run out of a warm lighthouse into a deadly Atlantic gale without stopping to grab his coat? The answer, most believe, was waiting for them down at the water's edge.
When searchers examined the island's landings, they found devastation on the west side. A landing platform, perched high above the normal waterline, had been battered by the sea.
A heavy iron railing was bent and twisted. Ropes were torn loose. A large storage box, secured to the rock far above where any normal wave should reach, had been ripped away and smashed.
The Atlantic had reached up to a height that should have been impossible and torn the landing apart. And that gave rise to the leading theory. Two of the keepers, it's thought, went down to the west landing during rough weather to secure equipment before a storm, properly dressed in their oilskins.
When they didn't come back, the third keeper may have looked out, seen them in danger, and run down to help so fast that he never grabbed his coat.
And then a single monstrous rogue wave, the kind these islands are infamous for, could have swept up over the landing and pulled all three men into the sea in an instant. It's a theory that fits the evidence: the missing coats, the storm damage, the abandoned chair, 3 men gone at once. But it can never be proven, because the sea left nothing behind. No bodies were ever recovered. No wreckage of a boat. Nothing but a twisted railing and an empty lighthouse. And there were details that kept the darker theories alive. The lighthouse logs reportedly described a terrible storm raging for days, even though records suggested the weather in the area had actually been calm at the time. Had one of the keepers written of a storm that wasn't there? Was there tension between the men? Rumors and legends grew, of madness, of a keeper snapping, even of the sea itself reaching up to take them. None could be confirmed.
What we're left with is a locked island, 3 vanished men, and a wave that may have risen out of the Atlantic exactly once, at exactly the wrong moment. The lighthouse was relit. New keepers came. The great lamp went back to sweeping its beam across the dark water, faithful as ever.
But it now watched over a sea that had swallowed 3 of its own, quietly, completely, and with ever once explaining why.
If the empty lighthouse haunted you, keep the beam turning with us. Like this video and subscribe to Backcountry Files. Tell me below what you think took those 3 men. Because some cases don't close, they just go cold.